Good evening. This is me. A question for you. Who of you woke up this morning and decided to screw up today? To make a complete mess out of it? Nobody? I trust you. I think that's true. And when you woke up, what did you see? You saw a very complex, changing world. That's the world we live in. And what does it mean, complexity? Well, it means that we have to deal with other people. We have to deal with things that we cannot predict. You see, at the left-hand side, two arms, and they're almost the same, but just a little difference in the original status mean that at the end of the day, you will see complete different behavior. Just a small difference causes unpredictable behavior. That is complexity. The other side, you see a very complex, complicated system. Well, I used to work for a bank, by the way, and people sometimes ask me, what is this? It's a complex system, but balls go in and balls go out. What is it? Well, that's the primary business process of a bank. and that's what you pay. And that's what you pay for. And when I work for that bank, I run my own innovation department with brilliant people, with brilliant ideas. My title was the Chief Dialogues Officer. I like fancy titles. And that means that I was very much in contact with the outside world. And I met fantastic people with a lot of brilliant ideas, working hard to create value, to make a better world. And when I looked at all those brilliant people outside and inside, with all these great ideas and working hard, they had one thing in common. And what was that? They almost always failed. Almost everything they tried didn't work. And I thought, how is that possible? Intelligent, hard-working people with great ideas, and they fail. Why is that? And that's because of complexity. What does it mean, dealing with complexity? It means we have to deal with change, we have to deal with others, we have to deal with uncertainty, and most of all, we have to deal with reality. That's what the world is. And I will tell you a little bit about this reality. We don't like reality all the time. Social media has been mentioned, and this is how we want to present our lives on social media. And I wish it was true. Actually, most of the time people are not lying, it's simply that they do not share all the aspects of life, which makes life so beautiful. The imperfect life is probably the most beautiful we can have. If you have perfect music, you wouldn't want to listen to it. It's not interesting. So, a lot of people come out of the bed and they have plans. They tell each other plans. I have a very interesting definition of plan, especially where I've been dealing a lot with business plans of entrepreneurs, and they want to sell you something. They want you to commit. They want you to give them resources or money. And I think a very good definition or a summary of all the business plans I've seen in the past reads like, it's a set of lies that make somebody else decide what we want them to decide. That's a good summary of a business plan. And why is that? Because if you look at a plan, people always try to convince you that the world looks like an easy trip. We're now here, we do something, we use some resources, and in a certain amount of time we're over there. And you see the picture behind me. That's what they try to sell me. And I have two opinions about what I see over there. First of all, it's extremely boring. Suppose that would be your cycling holidays. Now, I hope it's not longer than one day. But most of all, it's not very realistic, is it? I think what you see below is probably the more realistic version of what you can expect. And if I talk to people, I hope that they tell me that they know that this will be what will be happening. And that they're waiting for it, that they're happy with it. They tried something last year and they just found themselves in the water and they learned swimming. That they expect a mountain that they have to climb. And if they can tell me that that's what they expect and that's what they like, then I think they're probably more ready for the future than the ones who try to sell me the upper picture, isn't it? That's what reality means. It's not perfect. What we see every now and then is that people very much trained at business schools, at incubators, at whatever, be trained to start successfully a venture. And it can be a business. By the way, it can also be a personal relationship. It can be a sport, it can be a piece of art, whatever. But people are trained to be successful. You get the tools to be successful. And of course, yeah, you have a good idea. You use your ideas, you use your knowledge, and you start, and it's happening. But at one moment in time, you discover, wait a minute, it's not working. Actually, that happens in more than 90% of all innovative entrepreneurial activities. Who is being trained to deal with that situation? Nobody is. You're only being trained to be successful, is it? And when it doesn't happen, you have to find your way yourself. I call it a start down. We should also help people to start down, to learn and to capture the value in that start down phase of your life. And then you might have a new idea, or you say, well, I learned a lot, and maybe I can use these learnings to start all over again. You get your second chance. And when you use that second chance, you use the knowledge you built up in the past. And you have stamina, you try it again, you try it again. And that is probably very important if you want to be successful at the end of the day. Now, if you were able to invest, where would you like to invest? In the first attempt or in the second attempt? I got somebody at my door, and he said, Paul, I run a company, and I went bankrupt. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot about new possibilities with my technology. I understand why it failed in that market, but I've discovered another market. It's a great idea. I'm certain it will work. I went to the bank, and what did the bank say? We cannot help you. You are bankrupt. He said, so the interesting thing is, when I didn't know anything at all, they gave me 250,000 euro. When I learned a lot, they gave me nothing. So no second chance. So how do we deal with failure? And I think everyone deserves a second chance. One person said to me, but Paul, do you also think that the serial killers should deserve a second chance? I said, wait a minute. 99.99999% of the people are not serial killers. I think that's an interesting target group. Unless, of course, you belong to the other 0.00001%. So how do we deal with this? Well, English-speaking people know exactly what we talk about. They know the real meaning of the word fail. Actually, it's an abbreviation. It means first attempt in learning. We are human beings, and we grow because we learn. And we also learn, and we in particular learn when we fail. And of course, a lot of people say this, you know. People say, well, from your failures, from your mistakes, you can learn. That's true. It's so true that people don't think about it anymore. But I think about it and say, okay, I'm also in favor of motherhood. Very interesting. But to bring it into the practice, that's a little bit more challenging. So I try to find out, why do people fail? Are there principles of failing that we can discriminate between, that we can distinguish between? And I made an inventory, and I studied hundreds and hundreds of failures. Actually, that's my destiny. When something fails, they say, oh, go to Paul. Okay. Fine by me. And I've seen all those failures, and I try to see what is really happening here. And what is it that we can learn that could be used in another context? Because sometimes you learn something in a very specific context, and it's very hard to imagine that somebody else will find him or herself in exactly that same context, but still we can learn from it. And what I have tried to develop is a methodology for sharing lessons learned from failures, by understanding why things in essence fail. And I found so-called 16 archetypes, why things fail. Just a few of them. You see, for instance, the empty spot at the table, which means, and I see this quite often, and I do a lot of work in healthcare as an example, where people think for somebody else. And they develop something, a new tool, a new organization, or whatever it is, and they say, here it is, it's for you. And then people say, wait a minute, I was not involved. Yeah, but it's good, it's good. I didn't know about it. Yeah, shut up, it's good. And just because people were not involved, the problem of the project becomes a failure. That's what we call the empty spot at the table. We have something like the junk. The junk is somebody who cannot stop. I do an inventory of all the failed projects of a very big organization, worldwide, and I ask these people, say, okay, your project failed. Yeah, you stopped. Yeah, we stopped. What do you think about the moment you stopped? Well, it was too late. Okay, so why didn't you stop more early? Well, we still had budget. Yeah, okay. Well, we promised the result. I know. It's my baby. Well, get a real baby. It's much more nice and much more interesting. It can be a general without an army. You have great ideas, but not the resources. Yesterday I was giving a workshop somewhere, and they said, well, Paul, we have a new one for you. We have an army without a general. Interesting one. I like, in particular, also the farmer's daughter. Sometimes people are looking for something, and they find something else that they were looking for. Very famous examples, Post-it, Viagra as an example. Viagra was meant to be a drug for heart failure, angina pectoris. But the development of a drug is a very complex, lengthy, expensive process. And after a few years of development, you're going to try your new drug. And this drug for heart failure, angina pectoris, when they tried it in the clinical trials, when they asked a lot of people to try it, it turned out to have a side effect with about half of the population, appreciated by the other half. And then you have a new project. But they didn't look for that. It's serendipity. Serendipity is the skill to look for something and to find something else. It only works if you're open for that. It only works when you're open for that. And a Dutch scientist, he once said, you know, serendipity is looking for the needle in a haystack and finding the beautiful daughter of the farmer. That's why we call this archetype the farmer's daughter. And this is helping us not just to say we can share knowledge from failure, but also to redo it and capture the value. And that's what makes us human beings who we are. Learning species, intelligent species, species who we trust. When they try something, that they try to add value. And they should trust us when they share their learnings, that we don't criticize them for what they tried, but that we appreciate them for them trying, and most of all, we appreciate them for sharing their lessons learned. That's the safe environment, that's the trusted environment we should create for ourselves and for each others. And that's the basis of the Institute of Brilliant Failures, to help people to create that environment where people can do that. But it needs to be a brilliant failure. Not just a failure, but a brilliant failure. Brilliant failure means you want to add value, you have inspiration, you're dealing in the right way with risk, and no risk is no option, but then you don't do anything at all. You take the right approach, you make use of the lessons learned of others, and you learn and you share those learnings. If you score on all these dimensions, you have a brilliant failure. That's what we mean with a brilliant failure. And we put these people at a spot like this and tell about your failures and celebrate them and celebrate those people who have the guts to tell about what didn't work and learn from them. And I think it's a human right to fail. It's a human right to try, it's a human right to fail. That's why I have asked legal advisors to make an extension of the Universal Declaration of the Human Rights, to include the right to fail, the right to have a second chance. And I think every one of you deserves to claim that right. And I think every one of you has the obligation to give other people the right to try and to fail. If you do that, I wish you a lot of success, and I wish you a lot of brilliant failures. Thank you.